Okay, I think I should start with Dr. Bashir Oshodi. I have about 2 questions currently for Dr. Bashir Oshodi. Currently, I have one from one of the participants from YouTube, Monsuro Kuniyi, asking, please note this question, sir. He's asking if will saving money in dollars be considered as mal? Will saving money in dollars considered as mal? I also have another one that is asking express question if trading in cryptocurrency is halal or haram. Those are the 2 questions for Dr. Bashir Oshodi.
Would you want me to take them quickly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the first question around saving money from the Brother Mansour, saving money in dollars, is it compliant or not? Like I mentioned earlier on, because paper money has been accepted globally as a medium of exchange to a very large extent, a store of value, a store of deferred value, it means that keeping such money in those currencies are fine, can be a form of mal. And I think today, scholars, I've not seen any case where scholars have not agreed that keeping such is not mal. Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, dollars, pounds, any currency, including naira, it can be seen as mal. The only thing that in case of naira, it depreciates by 8% every year, since 1985, right? So the second question, is trading in cryptocurrency allowed or not? Again, I try to spell it out. If you're in a jurisdiction, in a country where they put in place the guidelines, the rules around it, number one. Number two, where the Sharia scholars have addressed the Sharia concerns, perfectly well, then it is fine. In our own jurisdiction, unfortunately, like I said, the regulators have not allowed it. Sharia scholars have not addressed the concerns, then it means that it's not allowed. However, Allah must say this. So I think the challenge for us as practitioners is to see how we can solve the Sharia challenges, even before the central bank comes up with their own guidelines. It's okay, we're not accepting it. Before that time, let's meet the conditions of Sharia to a very large extent. What are the things we're going to take out? What are the things we're going to put in? So I think over the next 1 year or so, we're going to put researchers together, including NIFIAN, which is the body that the Islamic finance body in Nigeria, and we're going to give it a kind of priority and address the Sharia concerns with Sharia scholars. Allah.
Well, Dr. Bashir too, another one which I think is also very instructive, and I read. It is widely accepted that currency requires 2 features. 1, to be a store of value. 2, to be a medium of exchange. How well do cryptocurrencies fulfill these requirements? And if there is a deficiency in either of one of them, can cryptocurrencies truly be referred to as currency?
Yes, in my presentation, I created a model, the genealogy of the democracy, right? So on the one hand, there is the protection of wealth, which is an integral part of democracy. We protect wealth. That's one part. On the other hand, there are 4 areas that currencies must also, or transactions must align with under Sharia. So yes, it can be a store of value. Yes, it can be a medium of exchange, no problem. But these 4 areas, apart from the protection of wealth, which is a part of democracy, as cryptocurrency solve this problem, number 1, is it money on money? Is money earned or money received on money itself? Number 2, is it backed by some kind of asset, or is there some kind of, if you like, is that speculation? If there's extreme speculation, there's a problem. Number 3, are there elements of gambling in it? If there are elements of gambling, then it's not compliant. Then number 4, is it ethical? Has it met the condition of of ethical concerns, or what Sharia scholars would call concerns around what is not ethical? Now, because it has not met these 4 issues, and because it has not met the giant issue around protection of wealth, which is a major part of democracy, Yes, even though it has met the other conditions of money. And so because we are not using gold or silver anymore, we're using paper money, right? But it has not met the four principal conditions of Sharia, and it has not also met the giant concept of the maqasid, then it is not compliant. So at this time.
Okay, thank you. There is another very important one, although we did not talk about it directly, but I think for the benefit of the Ummah, it's also good. And it says, is Sukuk a speculative investment? Is it really Sharia compliant?
Thank you very much. So, in the case of Sukuk, we had bonds before. We had asset-backed bonds. They were not compliant. Even if you build a house, big house, it's asset-backed. But is it compliant? The process is compliant. Even though it's a house, that house is not used for, it's not used for banking. They're not selling alcohol. But even that house may not be compliant. So the question is, how do you make that property to be compliant? And so you then follow the rules. So in the case of Sukuk, it's asset-backed. There's an underlying asset-based. The underlying contract is not money on money itself, which is the conventional bond. In the case of a conventional bond, you are earning money on money. So if you have invested in bonds, it's also not Sharia compliant. But if you have invested in asset-backed that has passed through the Sharia governance process, then it is allowed. So all the sukuk that we have in Nigeria right now, either it's private, you have a few of them, or it's sovereign, or it's subnational by states. They are compliant. And that's because the Sharia board has reviewed the process, they certify the process compliant, and the regulatory authorities, on the other hand, also have their own Sharia board. They've also marked it Sharia compliant, so they're Sharia compliant. Allah.
Thank you very much. Another one, maybe I'll just take one or two more. Mr. Chairman, approval.
Please proceed.
Okay. In the course of your discussion, why is Forex not mentioned? Or is Forex acceptable globally? Then I'm confused. Is cryptocurrency not part of Forex? I think the main question there is cryptocurrency not a part of Forex? Foreign exchange.
Yeah, okay. Let me go back quickly into the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ made it very clear that money on money of the same currency is not allowed. Phone on phone is not allowed. If I give you two old phones and I collect one old phone, it's riba. If I give you a nice shirt or a nice top for two old tops, it's not allowed, right? If I give you naira for naira, you go to a party and you change money, for an amount higher than what you have, is interest. Money on money of the same currency. Now, money on money or money of different currencies, silver and gold, silver for gold, naira for dollars, pounds for naira is allowed, according to the Prophet. So when I talk about FX, if you're exchanging naira for dollar, it's fine. When you're exchanging dollar for dollar of a higher value, it's not Sharia compliant. Allah.
Yes. Another one for you also. How can the disputes and divergence among the Islamic finance professional and Sharia scholars be resolved for laymen and laywomen not to violate halal issues or phenomenon around what we have discussed?
Okay, 2009, you had the Islamic Finance Working Group that I've been a member of, organized by FINA. FINA is Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access. It's a DFID program. And more recently, we have set up NIFAN, which is a body by, Islamic financial institutions. Luckily, I'm a member of ESCO. Now, what we're trying to do is to address all of these points, including capacity development, including even capacity development in academic institutions, in professional bodies, and solving the current challenges that we have. And they are solvable. And that's why we have gone to school. We have gone to school to solve problems, not to see them as challenging. We've gone to school to combat challenges to opportunities. And so, yes, all of these things are in the pipeline. And I believe that, inshallah, we're going to get them sorted out very quickly, inshallah. Together.
Yeah. Brother Kilani, I don't know whether you still have on other platforms.
Yes, I have a question for, absolutely, no, I have a question here for Mr. Hakim, the first speaker. Mr. Hakim Adebayo now. There's a question for you that says that even if cryptocurrency is allowed in Nigeria and is halal, are we not disadvantaged in Nigeria by the digital divide? This is a question to Mr. Hakim Adebayo, please.
Yeah, thanks so much, bro, Mustafa Kilani. Boy, in my mind, I'm thinking that question should be for Dr. Oshodi, if I'm not mistaken, asking whether if it's halal, are we not disadvantaged? Number one, I don't have even the little knowledge it required to know whether it's halal or not. So, but if to answer from layman, if it is halal, and we are banning it in Nigeria, the question is to say, what are the reasons? What are we getting in that?
Sorry to cut you in. I'm not sure the question is about whether it's halal or not. Let us assume that it is halal. Let us assume that the regulators approve of it. In your contribution, you mentioned the computing power required to transact in digital currency. Now we're in a country that has a lot of impediments digitally. So I think the question being asked is, if it's allowed by CBN, are we not disadvantaged in terms of the environment, the digital divide, the computing power required to trade in digital currency?
Well, let me put it right there before you. In addition to that, just that you can take it holistically, is the fact that some of us are still ignorant of the process of procurement. Is it in naira or dollar? And if it is dollar, is the dollar available to purchase?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Doctor and the President. Yeah, it is true that if you look at it from infrastructural perspective, one would say we are disadvantaged when it comes to transacting in digital currency. I don't look at it as you be an investor. I look at it holistically, considering the ecosystem. Guys that are making monies are not just investors. Miners, developers are making huge amounts of money. And the question is that in Nigeria, do we have enough power supply to even power our house, let alone of using terawatt hours in actually mining Bitcoins? So that's one specific advantage for us as that may be. Then the second thing is actually knowledge gap. In terms of a lot of us are still struggling to even understand, how it works, let alone of laying our hands on the technology behind it and actually be a kind of a technocrat when it comes to contributing to the crypto ecosystem, as the case may be. Nevertheless, cryptocurrency as a store of value is another means where we can actually make prominent gains in Nigeria. So if, for example, you want to go into crypto market with intention of making it as a store of value, I'm not talking about whether it's halal or it's not halal. So the question is that if there is a projection that a single BTC will be exchanged for more than $3 million in the nearest future. So the question is that going for something that was $52,000 as of February may be a kind of reason anyone may want to actually invest in that. And again, if you start doing something, it gives you that room, to actually learn it before it becomes a true global phenomenon. Thank you.
All right, I still have two more here. The first one is cryptocurrency compatible to paper currency? And why is CBN not providing a bailout for those that have already started before issuing restriction policies? I don't know whether you can answer that question. I'm talking about Dr. Shudi.
Yeah, let me take that with a question with what even Doctor mentioned regarding whether it's in dollar, it's in naira. The same way we have finance intermediate, the same way we have stock exchange, for shares, for some other commodities as you want to say it. The same way we have crypto intermediate and we have a exchange market for it. For example, if you want to transact in a BTC, I wouldn't want to mention any name here because of what is going on regulatory-wise in Nigeria. But the generic procedures is actually for you to open a Bitcoin account with one of these finance intermediates. And when you open the account, you need to fund your wallet initially. So, and this funding will actually be you depositing money to the intermediates in naira or in dollar, as the case may be. who then take the risk, take the tax of actually funding your wallet or your account in BTC as the case may be. And the same way you can transact in the online, say you want to buy 2 items of a bottle of Coke online, then you pay. The same way you can actually log on and say you either want to sell your Bitcoin or you want to buy your Bitcoin as the case may be. So that is to say you want to be a participatory agent when it comes to Bitcoin market. But if your purpose is just to buy and leave it there, maybe 10 years along the line, now sell and cash out, yes, that is equally possible, through the so-called finance intermediate.
Thank you. Well, this one is, to me, not a direct question, but an advice. Assalamu alaikum. There is a digital currency cash telex developed by Muslims, backed by physical assets, gold, real estate, and others. It has no element of riba or gambling. It has e-commerce, online shopping platforms, and very robust Sharia compliance system. The person asking the question think Muslims should look at it. I don't know your response to that.
Okay, let me ask a question quickly. Has it been approved by Sharia scholars? That's my question. It has been approved by Sharia scholars, fine.
Okay, so we will wait for the response of that person if it has an approval or it has a means of letting us know about it so that we can continue the engagement.
So I think in addition to what Doctor said, we need to be very, very careful. A lot of fake schemes are actually out there. People are aware of the fact that Muslims are conscious of, what is halal or what is haram as the case may be. So we need to be very sure this is not an approach by schema to actually dupe vast majority of Muslims. So the questioner may actually have more knowledge about it than people like us. Well, I'm surprised Doctor isn't even aware of it. So we need to be very careful. Let's do our independent search before we rely on such a scheme on the basis of being Islamic scheme.
And let me just quickly add to that briefly, Dr. Bash, just a second, sir, is the fact that one of the reasons why the regulators have been a bit reluctant, if you listen to the central bank and you engage with them a few times, which we've done, is the fact that they are conscious of the fact that people are, like with any other thing, once they see an opportunity, they want to take advantage of it and introduce a lot of scams, that may look like digital currencies, but they are not really digital. They are just trying to fleece you. As I've said in my presentation, the world is full of waves of digital currencies right now. Yes, they may put a flavor to it to say it is halal, it is Sharia compliant, it is for Muslims. They're just trying to market it and get a particular soft target. Let us be sure that it is real. Let us be sure that it is approved, just like Dr. Basha said, but we need to be careful. At this stage where the regulator, especially in Nigeria, is not yet confident enough to actually provide some sanctions to this, we need to be very, very cautious. And I also got the question as to why is the central bank banning cryptocurrencies? Have they made arrangements for folks that's a bailout for those that are already trapped? And a few people are already trapped. Actually, they know themselves. I think it would be very, very illogical, for a regulator to bail out people engaging in unauthorized transactions. When we get to that level, it will really be a sad day if a regulator is putting out money for people that have engaged in unauthorized or illegal transactions. Today, engaging in cryptos through Nigerian banks is illegal because the authority concerned is here to give it that legal authority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was going to quickly define what I mean by Sharia scholars. So CBN has guidelines for who Sharia scholars are. 3 major points. They must understand fiqh muamalat, Islamic commercial jurisprudence. They must have gone to a formal educational institution, and they must understand Arabic. These are 3 major conditions. So there are loads of other conditions around. So they must meet up this condition, and they must meet up with the guidelines of the CBN, to be Sharia scholars. I thought it's not that I mentioned that. Thanks.
Well, right up to that, Mr. Speaker, is this very important statement from the chairman of Unilag Alumni from Abuja, who said, I believe this webinar is not so much about the appropriateness of CBN intervention than the Sharia compliance of digital currency. So I think many participants are keen to have clarity on whether it is halal. Even if the CBN disallows it, what jurisdiction are we following in Nigeria in terms of Ijma by Sharia scholars? So I think this person wants a clear cut, which I think we have been very careful not to do here now.
If I'm to come in again, we don't have any pronouncement by Sharia scholars. So it's difficult for me to say it's compliant, because if I would say there's no submission to Sharia scholars yet. Again, that's one of the things I will try and pursue this year, but we don't have such pronouncement yet at this time.
Now, another one, which I think is the last one I have on my own part here. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm greatly enlightened. I say Jazakallahu khairan to all the speakers. My question is, how do we propagate these lectures to a greater percentage of the country population, especially the regulatory aspect of the presentation? So many out are just stark illiterate in the move of government to ban crypto, and the government is not doing enough to educate.
Well, I guess part of that conversation is what we are having here. And I'm sure in the last 1 or 2 hours or so, a number of us have gotten a very good grasp of what the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrencies are, not necessarily as experts. And I'm also aware that the regulatory authorities, and I think the last speaker, Mr. Hakeem Oyewale, also mentioned that they may need to quicken the pace of stakeholders engagement process, but I think that is also on. This webinar is already on YouTube, it's going to be on Facebook, so people also have the opportunity not only to go through them later, but also point attention to those the videos and the other element of it. So let everybody begin to also have a better understanding about what you don't understand, what you don't know fully well. Don't invest in it yet. And I think that's the important thing. Important from the point of regulation and important from the point whether it is halal or it is haram. So this exercise is part of the University of Lagos Muslim alumni contribution to deepen the understanding of the technology behind cryptocurrencies, the Islamic perspective to it, and a current regulatory environment in the country. And I think all the 3 speakers have done a very wonderful job about that. And I think at this point, Mustafa, do you have another thing on your table there?
No, I don't currently. So I think we should just move to the next.
I have a couple of issues to take up from the rear, particularly in terms of this regulation. And I think our brother with Oyewale, I'm one of the advocates of regulation, but again, there are some areas that I still believe that we need to interrogate further. For example, if the core mandate as presented by Mr. Oyewale is that they must protect the currency, the legal tender argument, which is the main one they were using against the money deposit. But the reality of the matter, which you need to clarify, is that if I put my money in my bank and I could use it in any other manner that I could use it, buy property, do this, do that, and I'm not using it in Nigeria, I'm not using it as a legal tender in there, which law, legal framework have I contravened in Nigeria? To the best of my knowledge as a lawyer, I'm not too sure that once I'm not using it to acquire or to conduct transactions within Nigeria, I have contravened anything. There is no specific law that I'm aware of today that has said we are banned or it is illegal to transact in cryptocurrency at all. I'm not aware of any such law. All that they have been doing since 2017, as the writer said, is to warn people, which is their responsibility, to say that, look, you have to be careful. This thing appears to be a scam, it's unstable, it's a gamble, and all those issues. Fine, but those are moral questions or ethical issues, according to Dr. Uchizi, but not a legal issue. So for me, I think it's an area that we need to interrogate, because if I decide to be banking and using my money, even if I decide to be gambling with my money, people engage in gambling every day, all over, they do lottery all over from their account. Why are you not banning them? If this man has decided also to say that I'm going to take gamble with my money with digital currency, so be it. That is the headache. I don't care about that. like you rightly said, the reality is that it's only when the central bank is being called upon or the state is being called upon to protect them when they eat the rock. That's their own headache. So that's number one area I want you to address. Secondly, I want to know what is the role of SEC in all this? Security and Exchange Commission. What is the role? Because some people have a very strong view that it's even their beat, not the central bank beat. So I want you to also address that aspect. Now, again, you mentioned something very important, cost relay. People might not take note of it. It's the reality that even a lot of countries like UK and I think US are already developing their own digital currency. So if central bank wants to, why don't they go ahead? If they know that our people have appetite for it, the way you have given us the statistics, let them develop our own digital currency and let people now run after it. Now, the last one for Brother Yewale is that, well, I think those are the ones that I have for, but for Dr. Oshodi, I have one or two, is that you said the central bank regulates these Sharia scholars that determines the legitimacy or otherwise of this transaction. What is their profile? What is their pedigree? What is their competence? Both locally and nationally. And like from your presentation, there seems to be a divergence of opinion, except we are using the majority rule. And there's something in law we call tyranny of the majority. The majority might be wrong, might be stupid, might be idiotic, and we still follow them. It has happened, it's happening in our electoral system today. Majority of the people who determine our leaders are bloody illiterate. They know next to nothing, but they still decide who to run us. So majority is not always right most of the time. I think you need to also clarify that aspect for us. Then I think that's the only area that I have for you. Then the other aspect is the issue of which I seem to be arguing with my wife. Is there any extreme, this definition of extreme, I don't understand. For example, take land speculation. People like Shuaib, for example, can decide to buy land in the Buhari estate now for 1 million naira. And waiting that when the thing is 10 million, maybe in the next 2 years or 3 years, or knowing fully well, for example, that there could be some development around that area, which will catapult the prices of those land in those areas, and at least reap at the end of the day as what is in quote excessive profit. Would that make it un-Islamic? Because I know that a lot of these things happen regularly. I don't know how un-Islamic it is, but if you buy land for 10 million and eventually the value is about 100 million and you sell it, and the profit might appear excessive. But the reality of the matter is that I do not know, and that I tell you have to educate me. Today, interest rate generally is about 2% in the banking sector. Now, there are a lot of Islamic products giving us return of 7%, 7.5%. How they are doing, we don't know. And with that, again, technically and seriously speaking, maybe you have to educate us, not amount to reaping from on your money, because it's money I gave them. At the end of the day, they are giving me 7% return, Islamic window too. Is that not an interest on its own too? How do you distinguish all this scheme in order not to for it not to constitute haram? That's for you. Now for my brother Akim, I think that the only aspect that I have for you, you probably are going to address it along the line. Again, the aspect related to tracking, you said these things can be tracked because the argument of CPM mainly is tracking. We can't track. We don't know the identity. From your presentation, I discovered that you mentioned those two key elements that is possible to identify and it's possible to track. Then it is not as I don't know which of the speaker put it, laziness on the part of CBN. They are not doing their job and they want to take as usual the easy way out as usual. So these are the various areas of concerns that I have for the respective presenter. Thank you very much.
All right, I think I should invite Dr. Oshodi, but just before that, please, I would like to inform us that we are pressed for time, so kindly make your responses quite brief. Dr. Oshodi, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me quickly, Dr. Banira, thank you very much for your questions. I'll take them very quickly. CBN, the phrase, I mean, they're very knowledgeable, very educated men that you have in CBN phrase. 7 of them. I think 2 of them are foreigners. They're very, very knowledgeable. So they are reputable people. Now, majority rule doesn't quite apply in Sharia. I've been sitting on Sharia board since 2009. I know that out of 3 scholars for financial institutions, if one of them says, hey, this is my reason for not accepting, then they cannot agree, except they all start to think the context of that scholar's opinion, right? So majority rule, to the best of my knowledge, I've not seen it, doesn't apply. Exchange speculation. I mean, you can make money. I can buy something for 100 naira and make 500 naira, Islam is not really against that to a very large extent. And what the Sharia, what you have in the hadiths is that there are certain goods, common goods, salt, berry, dates, I think one other one, 4 of them, that the Prophet has said, oh, these 4 things, you can't owe them. But in reality, I buy my house for 40 million naira 5 years ago, I sell it for 200 million now. That's fine, not a problem at all. However, trading in money is what is not allowed. When you trade in money itself, is what is not allowed. So when you buy and sell, no problem. When you buy and lease, when you do partnership, JV, joint venture, not a problem. Now, again, let me quickly then address your last question, which is around 7%, 8%. I mean, last Sukuk federal government gave 11.2%. Gave 11.2%, right? If I get money from one client, it gives me 2 billion naira. I give it to another client on basis of partnership or lease or sale, as the case may be, and I make 25% profit per annum. Percentage is mathematics, right? I'm able to share part of that profit with my clients. Again, all of these products have gone through the Sharia board. They've gone through the CBN Sharia board. They're asset backed. They've met all the conditions that I talked about. All the conditions around Sharia, they've met them. So because they have met them, they can have fixed returns, even though we like to call them expected returns, right? But all of those ones are allowed. I've just tried to rush through the question because of time. But trading on money is what is not allowed. Trading on assets, I buy and sell phones, I buy and sell pens, houses, whatever, is allowed. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Dr. Akinwale. Mr. Akinwale, sorry. Mr. Akinwale, you have the floor now, sir.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. It's Akim Oyewale.
Wa alaikum salam. Akim Oyewale, my apologies.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Moise Banire, for your questions, and may I use the opportunity to also thank you again for your classic, The Value of Having an Alternative Address. Now, regarding the question of whether there's any regulation, whether there's any law, that actually stops anybody from utilizing their funds the way they like, in the central bank, I'm not a lawyer, but the central bank, in exercising its mandates, under the Central Bank Act, to ensure that there is proper, monetary policy, it ensures that there is the legal tender in Nigeria is under its control, has decided, by its own wisdom, that it still has control over the deposit money banks. And all it has done so far is issue directives to the deposit money banks, that they should not allow any cryptocurrencies to flow through their systems. They are saying you are not allowed as First Bank, as Stanbic IBTC Bank, as GT Bank, to allow anybody settle trades that you can see that's going to be used for digital currencies, virtual currencies through your banks. I can regulate you as I give you a license as a bank. Even though I don't have a right to say, you have 100 million, 1 million, 1,000 naira, you can spend your money as you like. If you like, I'm going to be buying sand. You know that anything that's going to impact the execution of our mandate, we have responsibility to provide guidance over it. And we have determined that digital currencies at this stage will affect the attainment of our mandate. We are now asking you to stop this from going through your own bank because we gave you a license. And if you do not comply, we have the right to take our license back. So what they've done technically, sir, is to exercise rights within their mandates. So that's to answer that. The second question about whether the regulation of cryptocurrencies should actually be under the Securities and Exchange Commission, or whether it's the central bank that should actually regulate them. I would say that the Securities and Exchange Commission was actually very, very bullish about this, to the extent that in September 2020, they had actually issued a statement, to the effect that all digital currencies are securities. And by the Investment and Securities Act, all securities in Nigeria are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So the import of that message in September last year was to the fact that the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria, SEC, was ready to execute and exhibit authority over all digital currency issuances or digital instruments, blockchain securities, call it whatever, any issuances. So they had actually issued a statement to that effect that they had the right and they were going to regulate that. However, after February 5 instruction direct from the Central Bank of Nigeria, there was a volte-face. There was another instruction or statement from the SEC to the extent that they are suspending or they are slowing down on their initial statement of September 2020. So we could see maybe because there are still engagements going on between the two of them, so SEC doesn't really want to start running ahead, and there will now be looking to the outside world that there is a bit of a conflict. So they say they are stepping down until they have the necessary engagement with the Central Bank of Nigeria. So SEC actually, as far back as last year, already knew and were ready to assume authority over regulation of coins and digital currencies in Nigeria. The last question I got also was the fact that, yes, we understand digital currencies is here to stay. And other countries in the world are already thinking about even coming up with their own digital currencies. What is the central bank doing? Are they still just being lazy? Are they, the answer is the central bank is not being lazy. They are also conscious of the fact that there is need for them to invest in equipping themselves knowledge-wise about digital currencies and regulating it in Nigeria. And to that extent, like I said in my presentation, there is already the proof of concept being going on right now about the issuance of the Naira coin, as a regulated digital currency in Nigeria. So there will be a Naira coin, just like you have the Bitcoin, you have all the other coins. There will be a Naira coin in the nearest future, that will have possibly the acceptance of most people, especially the central bank, and we hope that the market will absorb it. So those are the three questions that I have in my area, and I think I've answered them. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much.